All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, fellow Pandemonium travelers, this is Seattle Pandemonium Shutdown, day 351 by my count. So what's going down? What's going on? We've got breaking pop culture news. One Barack Hussein Obama and Bruce Springsteen are going to have a podcast together. And I gotta tell you, that sounds like some boring tripe, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like, two wildly famous, millionaires opining about their origin stories to each other. Alright. It's like one of those things, like, I'll let other people watch it, listen to it. Like, they gave a trailer for it, right? And again, as a very failed podcaster, I know how this works. They gave a promo video that was like a, oh goodness, excuse me. That was like a retrospective of both of their lives and how they're gonna come together and have this conversation, or conversations, I guess. And it's like, yeah, that sounds great as a documentary, right? Like, two guys talk about their experience with their fathers or something, it's like a thing, a little Ebony and Ivory thing going on, I don't know. But that works as like a documentary or something, not a podcast, unless you're gonna bookend it, which, yeah, I suppose you can do a serialized sort of, it's like almost not a podcast at that point. I don't know. I feel like Joe Rogan continuously talking to people until he finally just decides to retire or dies on live stream. I don't know. That's like podcast. Sit down and talk to people. Now, I understand you got your hardcore history where, it's like a narrative. It's not a conversation. Then you got your Radio Labs that have like jiggy effects and stuff. I kind of copied some of that format for some of my episodes. But that's a podcast. I don't know. It just seems like it's going to be absolutely boring. And it's one of these things like Hillary Clinton announced a podcast. Now, of course, her podcast probably does better numbers than mine. But it's like, who is listening to Hillary Clinton's podcast? Like, I just don't understand, like, why you want to listen to that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just so cynical I just don't care anymore. But what else is going on? Well, the never-ending political hellstorm continues. And today we had Merrick Garland. I was told, I had it on good authority that he had been deceased. Apparently not. That's an internet joke, by the way. He was getting interviewed for the Attorney General position, of course, formerly held by Bill Barr, right? And he's being asked questions, and the punditry and the political nonsense is just nonstop. It's just so irritating. So, who was it? Josh Hawley? People want this guy's head so bad. They want this guy. Oof, they want him bad. He was pointing at Merrick Garland, I guess. And this pundit, I can't tell if they're kidding or not. On Twitter, they're like, have you ever seen anybody point so aggressively at someone in an interview? And it's like, what? Sure, what? Point so menacingly. Ugh. Oh, no. My stars and garters. This is the end of the Republic. I mean, my goodness. These are adults. What are you talking about? God, it just like never stops. It's like everything's always completely unacceptable and terrible. He was just guy was like indicating with his hand. Like, shut up. God. And then Garland, of course, stated that he was asked about whether or not it is illegal for somebody to cross our southern border without permission or without, proper, procedures. And he hemmed and hawed and said, well, I haven't really thought about it that much. Now, listen. After the last 5 years in this country, you haven't thought about it very much? You haven't really thought about whether our border means something. Okay. So either you're an imbecile who lives in some fantasy world of your own construction that, it has no bearing on, what's going on in the country you live in, which is not true. He knows exactly what's going on. He just knows that if he says, yes, we will enforce border policy, he is saying, yes, we will be detaining women and children and everything at the border, and we will have to house them somewhere, so we will be putting them in facilities that, and it'll just be a continuation of the Trump era policy. But they can't do that because Trump was the big meanie that was locking up children because he hates brown people. So we can't do the same thing. Well, they will be doing the same thing. They are doing the same thing right now. They're just not going to say that they're doing it that way. What they call them, temporary overflow facilities or something like that. It's like, you mean cages. Like they're being put in cages because that's what that is. And so this rhetorical nonsense, they get to do this to us, right? They get to play these games with like media clips and their little performative outrage moments and the dodging questions like that one. He said that the Q shaman and the other people who attacked the Capitol building back in January, that they were, that was terrorism. It's domestic terrorism, which is what a lot of people have been calling it for. You need to be calling out. It's domestic terrorism. Okay, and then he was asked about, well, what about these courthouses in, like, Seattle and Portland and stuff? And he's like, oh, well, I mean, if it was nighttime, then they weren't disrupting the proceedings. So that's not domestic terrorism. It's like, okay, if they had gone in and burned the building down, thus making official court proceedings impossible, that would have been domestic terrorism. So the fact that the police defended the building and kept them from doing that, that's not an insurrection. That's not attacking federal officials. That's not domestic terror. Like, if it happened at night, it's not domestic terrorism is one hell of a take, guys. That is just chef's kiss. Mwah! That is just wonderful, wonderful framing there. Well, and he says and too much. As a very failed podcaster, I often try to pay attention to how I'm speaking. And, sometimes you might repeat certain verbal tics. Sometimes you might hang you might, like I just did. You might kind of, This guy is like, It's like he's never been asked a question before. And this guy was supposed to be on the Supreme Court. That's why it's nonsense that he doesn't have a thought about border policy. Like, that's just nonsense. But yeah, what else we got? What's going down? I don't know. Obama's podcast, probably be a snooze fest. Merrick Garland. We got some police activity up here. What's going down, fellas? Book 'em, Dano. What's going on? What happened over the weekend? I know I looked at stuff. Oh yeah, Coca-Cola. So people are splitting hairs about this in really obnoxious ways. So Coca-Cola, the company, put out some training materials. Now, let me try to be accurate here. They use a training platform. I forget what it's called. It's like Video Coach or something like that. That's actually on LinkedIn. Of course, LinkedIn, the, resume business website. And one of the modules that they have on there is a video that features, I think it's that white fragility woman, features some of her material about race and inclusivity in the workplace, etc., etc. Well, in the video that they have up there, it says employees should try to, be less strict, not hold people to the same standards of like being on time kind of a thing. And it says, try to be less white. Well, people like yours truly quickly busted out some memes that have already been getting spread around by other people, which I always like to see. And so Coca-Cola is getting dragged, and people are like, no, it's not their training. It's training that's on LinkedIn. And it's like, yeah, it's a distinction without a difference, guys. They approve of this material being used to train people. Now, I'm all for a reminder for people every once in a while that, like, we have diverse workplaces and such, and, just be aware that there are things to be aware of when working with men and women and, I don't know, non-gendered people, if they're that, invested in the thing. There's a time and a place for, reminding people of these things and people being aware of these things. And then there's a super huge corporation basically forcing you to be told you're a bad person because you're white, and that you need to stop doing that. You need to stop being how you are, because that's not okay to exist as a white person. It's just so asinine, and like it's just so like flippant and like tossed around as like this obvious thing, like, well, duh, it's white people, of course, they're just terrible. It's like, I'm not terrible, okay? I might be a lot of things. I might be a miserable bastard, but I am not a bad person because I'm white. At least my whiteness doesn't make me a bad person. Me being a miserable bastard makes me a bad person. It has nothing to do with my whiteness. It's just so, and it's your company, so you can't just say, no, I'm not going to do this. No, you have to. It's mandatory. Or even if it's voluntary, quote unquote, it's probably not voluntary. It's, hey, we're all doing it. It's as voluntary as, I don't know, cocktail hour or whatever. Ew. Florida. Yuck. Oh, I get the most insane robo-dials. But yeah, so Coke is getting dragged for that, and good riddance. I mean, like, if you didn't know that material was in there, why are you having your employees study it? So, like, you didn't review it? Because I don't believe that. I believe that they agreed. I believe they pay for this service, in fact. They agreed upon this training material for these reasons. We'll get after it. And then they just got called out for it because somebody else screen grabbed it and was like, yeah, this is messed up. And it's funny. It's funny to make a meme that goes kind of viral and you get to drag some super huge company. But just wait until people find out about Fanta. if the legend I've heard is true. So yeah, this is day 351. We're starting to reopen parts of Washington. We're at like 25% capacity for restaurants and stuff. I think we're past the snow. I don't think there'll be any more snow this year. I could be wrong. Good hard weekend of snow, and then that'll be it for us. The rest of the country could use a little warmth right now. Maybe this sunshine you're seeing right now is headed down to Texas. We'll find out. They're in a tight spot down there. Ted Cruz landed himself in trouble. Ooh, that was the other thing. Did I not cover that? Did that happen over the weekend? Did that happen on Friday? Ugh. It's hard to keep all the strands straight here. Yeah, Teddy got himself in trouble flying to Mexico while Texans are shivering in their houses with no electricity. Not a good look, guys. Not a good look, Ted. And then he apologized, and so now it's just blood in the water, and it's just not good. So yeah, I guess we're boycotting Coca-Cola, at least until they put the Coke back in it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Alright, maybe that's enough for me for a Monday. We're approaching a year again, guys. A year of pandemicing, if you can believe that. Alright, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.